What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another great edition of this podcast that is called The Hit. I am your lead man, Logan Graffia, and he is my boy Calvin Rons, as usual. Today, we're mainly going to be talking about Pelicans Summer League and what happened last night in Las Vegas. And then we're going to touch briefly on a USFL rumor. And then there's not really much to talk about for the Saints, but we will maybe touch briefly on it if we have time. But let's get started. And the topic of the water cooler, of course, is what happened last night. As I said, Pelicans played their first summer league game, and it was not pretty, Calvin. It was not
Not
pretty
at
at
all.
all.
Not at all. I'm looking up here the box scores and everything, so I just want to make sure I get the information right. But from the eye test, from what I've seen, God, we looked awful. And I mean, there's a lot of that going from last year. Willie Green was the coach and now Collins is the coach. But I don't really think it makes that much of a difference. But I mean, Najee Marshall is quite the disappointment. I mean, the guy has played about like 2-3 years in the NBA, getting quality minutes, and he's going against guys who's going to be cut next month, and he's struggling, and it's not good to watch. I mean, at least with Trey, he went 1 for 8 with threes, but he was 7 for 8 inside the arc, and he was 8 for 8 on free throws. At least he said, you know what, if I'm not gonna make my threes, I'm just gonna do everything else. Najee is either Eric Bledsoe or prime Tyreek Evans.
I seen
Zero
someone
is
say that. I seen someone say that on
like
Twitter.
that tweet is perfect for him. Like there's no excuse for that dude.
I seen that. I seen that same tweet. I really did.
But for me at least, Dyson Daniels, I wasn't really too pleased with what I've seen offensively. I expected a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's game one, so I ain't really tripping about it. He showed a lot of promise on defense, but question I have for you, EJ Liddell's play, does that concern you a little bit? Because he definitely looked like he should have been drafted where he was instead of the potential first round guy that we've seen or should have seen.
Well, I mean, I feel like for a lot of these guys, they look like a deer caught in headlights because this was their first NBA action and on a national stage. I mean, this ain't college, so, and plus you're playing for a job. It's not like in college where like, oh, I'm not playing right now, but I'm still on the team, and whatever happens, happens. This is the NBA. You're literally trying to make an NBA roster. If you get cut, that's it. You can either go to the G League overseas, but basically that's it. But not too worried because it's like you said, it was game one. I feel like there's a few teams that already have had games under their belt. The Blazers were one of them. So we kind of caught the Blazers like after they already played and kind of already got their gelling going. But EJ Liddell, there was times where he got fouls called on him for like what I thought were clean blocks. I feel like on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, he could have been better, but I saw a lot of things that I liked, especially in the second half. I mean, the blocks that were called fouls, that watch I completely disagree with. They were not fouls in my opinion. If you go back and look, almost all ball, or not almost all ball, almost completely all ball. But then in the second half, he kind of woke up. I started seeing him maybe open up a little bit more. I started seeing him doing step back mid ranges, kind of driving to the basket, dishing it out. But I'm not too entirely worried about EJ Liddell's game. I think that'll come with time because Jaron Collins is basically he's our assistant head coach, but he's also our big man coach too. Every team has one. But as for also, I know you didn't ask this, but Dyson Daniels, I liked what he did on defense because I think that's what Willie's kind of going for right now for these young guys is defense, because defense wins championships and it gets you to the finals. Because we saw that with Boston. Yeah, they can shoot, but they wasn't great shooters like the Warriors were, because the Warriors was able to do it kind of on both ends. So defense only gets you so far, but defense does win you championships in the end. So to answer your question, I'm not too entirely worried.
I mean, well, for Dyson, I'm a little more worried now. I mean, he's injured. I'm always going to be worried about guys that get injured. And it just seems on pace for the Pels that their first pick in the first round gets injured before the season starts. Like, it just seems to be a trending thing for us. And I mean, I feel like, what I did see was the shot mechanic. The first shot that he put, I think it was like the first shot of the game, rimmed out. I was like, hey, that was a shot that was pretty far off from the 3-point line. And he was confident enough to pull it. And, pretty sure it was Deion Waiters that said it. I'd rather go like 1 for 20 than, 0 for 5, because at least I know I'm still confident to shoot it. Like, I want the dude to pull some shots. But he shot a corner 3 from the corner. He absolutely airballed it like wide right. I'm like, that's a disgusting miss. Like, I'm like, that, and it looked like it was like a push shot. I was like, man, what's up with that? So
there was a lot of air balls. There was a lot of air balls, especially from Trey Murphy, which I was surprised about, because Trey Murphy, even during his rookie year, you didn't see him shoot many air balls, if at all. Like, I think there was only like maybe 1 or even 2 occasions where we saw Trey Murphy airball. But last night, we saw it on numerous occasions from multiple players. Now,
I mean, I don't know if the rim was 6 inches shorter or what, but
I started seeing that joke on Twitter, but it was just, you could see what team has already played a game and what team hasn't. I'm not sure the late tip-off time had anything to do with the play, which I absolutely doubt it did, but maybe. We're not going to use excuses there. Overall, we just sucked. We did. I mean, there's no colorful way to say it. We just sucked. And then in the fourth quarter, we started seeing maybe they're putting it together. We started seeing Trey kind of putting it together. Najee, like you said, either he's going to be Eric Bledsoe or Prime Tyreek, but it is Summer League, and we mostly see him play kind of like Tyreek in regular season. Thank God for that. But as for last night, Najee had one of his
2 for 12.
Yeah,
that's 16% from the field, going against guys, like I said, that will not be on NBA rosters. I mean, that's just can't really take that. But I mean, Jared Harper, I mean, he was one of the bright spots before.
Oh yeah,
the guy's a bucket. 18 points on 5 for 14. I mean, that's 35%. That's not that great. And he was 1 for 6 from 3. But I mean, everybody was shooting 30 from 3. But no one
was able to shoot. Yeah, the guy is a walking bucket, like you said. And I mean, no one can buy a basket from 3. Like, nobody. It just seemed like no matter who was shooting from the 3, no one can make it. Now, John Petty, you and I were discussing this not only last night, but weeks ago. No, actually last year, around after the draft. And I told you, if there's one guy I want to see us draft, even after Herb, it's his Alabama teammate, John Petty. And you asked me why. I said, dude, he is a walking bucket. He can make it rain from 3. Now, if I'm not mistaken, he shot either 2 for 4 or 3 for 4 from 3. I mean, his first 2 for 5.
2 for 5.
Well, I mean, his first baskets, he went back to back from 3.
Like, hey, that's 40%. You give me a 40% 3-point shooter any day of the week.
That is cool. That's fine with me. And if you watched him play for the Birmingham Squadron, which is our G League affiliate for those who don't know, he was basically our 3-point marksman for the Squadron. And I was always wondering, why haven't we called him up yet? Why haven't we given him a 2-way? And it's just, our roster is just so filled right now. It's just, we have no room at all, which is crazy to say. We've never really been in this situation before where our roster is so filled, we can't sign anybody. Now, there's a couple players on the Summer League team I'd love to have on a 2-way so they don't go to other teams and burn us, because that's usually how that goes in New Orleans sports. I mean, Jared Harper, we saw what he did, if I'm not mistaken, this past season against the Knicks. I think it was against the Knicks, where he came in off the bench and he just dropped 10 consecutive points. And I watched the guy play at Auburn, and he still looks like that guy. I've always been kind of a fan of Jared Harper. Basically SEC kind of basketball players in general, because they come from these programs that I feel are more like football schools than anything. Like Auburn's more of like a football school than a basketball school. And of course, like Alabama, as we all know, is this football powerhouse, and they're not really known for their basketball team. So people like John Petty and Jared Harper kind of get overlooked, in my opinion. So those would be my two candidates to have like on another two-way. And the one player that we signed to a two-way after this draft was Sebron out of North Carolina State. We didn't really see much run from a lot of guys, and I don't know if that's really Jaron Collins just kind of being inexperienced and actually being the lead guys in a manner of speaking. But I'd like to see if Dyson's out for the rest of the summer league, that's fine because
he was going to be in the rotation anyway. Like we know what he's going.
I mean, Fred and Willie will work with him. He'll be fine. Kind of like how Kyra Lewis came on late when he was a rookie too, and also before he got injured, we saw massive strides with him. But I think if you're going to have a two-way, at least two-way guys, because I don't know what the limit is. My choice would be Jared Harper and John Petty, because you can never have enough speed and you can never have enough shooting. And my only worry is because we've seen it in the past when it comes to the Pelicans, and even when we was the Hornets, where guys that we should have gave two-way contracts or signed after summer league, we just let walk. For example, one of those guys is in Brooklyn right now, and he's known as one of the best three-point shooters in the league. His name is Seth Curry. I'm sure that name sounds familiar. And to this day, I'm still wondering why didn't Dell Demps and that front office sign this guy? We could have used Seth Curry. We could use him now.
We can.
We could definitely use somebody like. I mean, he's a 3-point marksman. He's not. Well, he's not his brother, but he still can kind of shoot threes like his brother. Is pretty darn close. So I really think there's a lot of players on the summer league roster that intrigue me, but I'm kind of curious which kind of players intrigue you the most on the summer league roster.
Obviously EJ Liddell. For those who don't know, I'm an Ohio State fan for football, other than Tech, obviously. But so I'm going to always, look for the Ohio State guys and see what they're up to. They've had some pretty good, players come out of Ohio State for basketball. So EJ Liddell, watching him, I really want him to work out, and seeing him score 2 points and be a net negative guy was just not fun to watch. Carlo Mackovich, he was interesting. He had a really nice looking 12-footer from the corner. Like, it's beautiful. Arc was perfect, just bottom of the net, just perfect sound and everything. Like, he only put up 2 shots and he made one. So I'm like, I want to see him, score a little more. I want to see what he could do. Questioning why John Butler didn't get more run. He's a big 7-foot guy, and we were getting dominated in the paint. So I would have really liked to see John Butler maybe, like, if he could, because, we've talked about it. We need another rim protector. Like, in my opinion, I am looking for a replacement for Willie Hernan-Gomez, because I can get a Willie Hernan-Gomez from, I can get a scoring production of Willie Hernan-Gomez anywhere. Like, Jahlil Okafor was doing the same type of scoring that Willie Hernan-Gomez is. So if I could get a rim protector that's decent enough to give me a shot or two, I could say goodbye to Willie and give that spot to, like a John Butler, or, even like getting rid of Garrett Temple, so we could fit some of these guys. So John Butler, I need to see get more tick. Mm-hmm. Jared Harper, for sure. I'm not really sold on Sebron. I needed to see a little more of him, because he just wasn't overall Tony Snell that night. He looked like Kyra, though. I thought it was him for half a sec. But, two-way guys I want to see, I'd give that to Jared Harper and John Petty as well. But if John Butler can come and emerge, I would give it to John Butler, because I think Jared showed that he can create his own shot a lot better than John Petty, and seems like he can be just as good as a shooter if it's falling. So, I'll just take a guy who can do a little more. And Najee, if he continues to play like he's playing, I mean, I understand it's summer league, but you're an NBA player who's played. You played in a playoff game. You played in the playoff series against the number one team.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you're playing like this. Like if he doesn't start playing good, I might have to even start looking at options to get him out. I mean, because if you're not going to produce in summer league against these guys, you're just not going to be in this rotation. And I don't want you wasting the spot like that. But hopefully he'll get it together.
Well, I mean, the best part about even after summer league is over with, we still have a G League affiliate team that needs players, and there's always that. And it's not like we can't call up any of our G League guys. I mean, it's the G League; anybody could get signed. But I would like to see more out of John Butler, like you said, because he is an intriguing prospect. Because you watch his tape at Florida State, he was able to shoot the three. I would say fairly well, but not great. But there's not really too many holes on this roster that can be filled, because which is crazy to say for a Pelicans team. I think it's the first time I've ever said those words about a Pelicans team.
Yeah, a team that's really deep. I just really think it's just more effective just trying to upgrade pieces that we have. Like Willie and Devontae and Najee and Garrett Temple are like the four pieces that I can see right now that can be upgraded. It's possible to upgrade from that.
Well, with Garrett, I mean, that is probably a coaching weight, and I mean,
yeah, that's a hazard situation.
That's the perfect analogy for it too, because that's basically what he is. Now, can he come in and maybe get you a quick 4 or 6 points? Probably. We've seen him do it. I mean, there was times he was getting significant minutes for us, and he was dropping like 14 points, if I'm not mistaken, which is shocking. But I think that's just one of those situations where, okay, when his contract's over, let's just add to the staff. That's cool with me. I mean, we don't have really no Louisiana guys on the staff or on the team, so I think that would be perfect to have at least one Louisiana guy.
Oh boy, I thought you was about to go all Avery Johnson on me again. I thought you was about to lead into that. I thought you was about to do it.
Hey, you brought it up, but I would absolutely love to have Avery on the team. I don't know what we got to do to get this man back in the coaching and let it be on the Pelicans coaching staff, but please, God, if that ever happens, let it be Avery Johnson on the staff. Anyway, but if there's going to be anybody that's going to be in the coaching staff after they're done, which it might be after this year, I don't know if that was an agreement or not, but it would probably be Garrett Temple. He's from Baton Rouge. It's not that too far from New Orleans. He went to LSU. I mean, he definitely knows the boot very well. And why not at least have one guy that understands Louisiana culture on the team? Now, I give it to Willie. He does understand Louisiana culture. I'll give him that fairly well, because he did play here for a season or two back when he was a player. So he understands the culture here, which is not a bad thing at all. So, but I mean, if Devontae Graham, I feel like he was brought in to play off of Zion, and we didn't get to see that. I'm still on the hold off on trading Devontae Graham train for right now. Not saying completely. I'm still kind of like on the fence, because we didn't see him play with Zion.
He has until the trade deadline for me. That's basically it for me.
That's fine for me. I give him up until February myself. That's the trade deadline. I think February is the trade deadline. Yeah. Anyway, Devontae Graham, you got. I love Willie to death. Everyone says he's the best teammate, but we need another backup center. And I love Larry Nance, but he is not a center. He's just a small ball. He's a small ball center, like I told you. And I remember when I said, hey, Larry Nance is going to be one of the best pickups that we got in that trade from Portland outside of CJ. Because I said Tony Snell is not going to – he's Tony Snell. I mean, but I told you Larry Nance is going to surprise you, and you said, nah, man, nah. Then after a game or two, you was like, dang, he was right, because he was out there getting double-doubles like it was nothing. So, but he's not a center. We definitely could use another backup center in Valanciunas. It's just, if I had to put together a trade package to get rid of 3 players, just maybe for one, it would probably be Devontae, Willie, and maybe Najee. I'm not trading Garrett Temple because he's probably gonna be in the staff. So those three, I would.
Is Tony Snell on contract still? I don't think he
I'm
is.
not entirely sure.
'Cause
He
I
might
keep
be.
forgetting that he's here, but if
I don't.
he's not on contract, you might
I
have to let
think.
him know.
I think he's a free agent, but if he's not, maybe add him to a trade, maybe for a draft pick, clear up some
You
roster.
know what? Just go get the boy from Utah, Bogdanovich. I know I texted you. I was like, yeah, I don't want any of them, but if it's to dump those three guys to then create space to go sign like a Jared Harper or either
Or a John
Liddell
Petty.
or John Payne, then like, yeah, all right, I'm cool with it. I mean, let's get these young guys some ticks.
Now, if we get Bogdanovich from Utah, that'd be pretty great. It really would, because I don't know what a package would look like. I mean, we're just speculating. I mean, would it be Devontae, Willie, Najee, and maybe a second round pick? Because
I
Utah's
mean,
over.
they're having a fire sale right now. Like, oh, is this the clearance rack in Utah?
I mean,
Let's
they're
go
over.
shopping at the clearance rack.
Oh, I love shopping at the clearance rack. They even said they would attach a first round pick to Boban Bogdanovich if they had to. So you could include a second round pick and you get a first round pick in return and Bogdanovich. Come on, man. That's a win-win. That's a win-win there. Plus Bogdanovich, he can knock down the three fairly well. And I'm at a point where, like, you know what? I love Kyra Lewis. I wanted us to draft him. I've said that we would draft him, but maybe it's just time we maybe use him as a trade piece too, because I feel like everything Kyra can do, Jared Harper can do too, even though he's a little bit shorter than Kyra. But man, Jared Harper, I like I said at Auburn, he was something to watch. He really was. But I think it's gonna.
I think Kyra's he's just in a weird place on his team. He's kind of an in between guy. He was the product of another coach, Stan Van Gundy. That was a Stan Van Gundy draft choice. Whether or not Stan Van Gundy wanted him or not, that's to be said. But he came into this team and everybody was thinking, okay, in about a year or two, he's going to be the starter or one of the starters. And at the time we had Lonzo, so we were like, all right, he's good back into Lonzo, or maybe he might overtake Lonzo, move Lonzo to shooting guard, whatever. And then out of the blue, we end up getting CJ as the point guard. Right. We get Devontae Graham. So, first we get Devontae Graham, and then we get Tomas Satoransky. So we're like, okay, Satoransky, we knew that he wasn't going to be that great, but we're like, he's pretty decent, but he was just so much worse than what we all thought. And so we're like, all right, Devontae Graham's going to be the starter. Kyra can come off the bench. And then it came to the point where, all right, he's hurt, whatever. Now we have CJ. And we knew he wasn't starting over Devontae. And then now we have Dyson Daniels. So now that's three guys who he's probably not going to start over. Dyson is much more fluid positionally than Kyra. CJ is also. I mean, Devontae and Kyra are like really low-key in the same boat. Like they're fighting for that third point guard spot, I guess you want to say. I mean, we don't really have point guards anymore. And then you got Jose. Jose has to play. He has to. Kyra's
deep
defense.
Roster.
Yeah, it's a deep roster. And I mean, Kyra's defense isn't on the level of Jose's. And I haven't seen him able to score as much as Jose. I mean, it seems like about what offensively, but Jose's defense just makes him far more valuable. So, I mean, Kyra's in a weird spot. I mean, we might have to give him the knock treatment, man, and ship him off, and I hate to say that because, we all love Nickeil Alexander-Walker and, we all love Kyra, but I think I want to see him succeed in his career also. And I don't really see him succeeding here just with all the talent that we have at the guard spot. So
it's a deep roster, especially guard wise, because it's like you said, CJ's most probably going to start at the point guard spot with Herb starting at shooting guard. Even though we're playing positionless basketball, it's just
you got to have somebody listed there,
Right. It's going to be CJ, Herb, BI, Zion, Valanciunas. That's your starting five. Because there's going to be people out there that say, oh, no, Herb can come off the bench. No. Herb's got to be your Tony Allen, and he's got to start. So There's your starting five. Now, who's the first guard going to be off the bench?
Probably Dyson. So, I mean,
Dyson's going to have to fight for those minutes because, in my opinion, right now, the first two guards off the bench, the sub in for CJ and Herb, it's probably going to be Devontae and Jose because those two those two gave you great minutes last year and they played very well together, especially Jose. Then after that, it's very deep. It's a deep bench. I mean, seems like we're full at 15. There's not one. We've never had this situation before where it's like, oh no, he's got to play. It's like, sheesh. Everyone's kind
I
of
mean,
got.
this is a hard task for Willie
It is.
Green because I know if I was a coach, let's say I'm playing 2K, I'm trying to figure out how to allot these minutes because I'm trying to figure out who's going to play where because we could do a lot of freaky lineups. I mean, you can have Herb start shooting. You have Herb start at small forward. You have BI as shoot guard. You can have Dyson come in and then shooting guard be CJ, small forward be Brandon Ingram. Like there's so many possibilities you could do. I mean, Dyson's like what 6'7". I mean, the guy can be
He's
really
tall.
the first. He could be like the first forward off the bench if you really want to talk about it. Like he could be a backup to Brandon Ingram because if Najee Marshall is going to give me minutes like he just gave, like I don't want him on the court. And I mean, Dyson, you say he's going to fight for minutes. I think he's going to get the minutes. I think he just offers more playmaking wise than Devontae. And Devontae has had some pretty terrible shooting nights. And if anything, I'd rather have a guy who's going to shoot terribly, but he's going to be a factor on the defensive end than have a guy who's going to shoot terribly and then be a liability on the defensive end like Devontae. I mean, I wouldn't say he's necessarily a liability. I mean, he did get better on defense, but there's just some times where his shot's not falling, and he is absolutely the worst person on the floor because he can't do anything else. He's not playmaking. He's not rebounding. He's not defending. Coach has to get him out in like 2 minutes. If he throws up a shot and he breaks it and he throws it and he breaks it, you got to take him out because he's going to try to shoot himself out of the slump. And we don't have time for him to be a volume shooter on this team.
Well, it's going to be very interesting going forward, and I think we're just gonna have to leave the Pelicans talk for next episode because got to move on to. Want to say we're just gonna get into this very quickly because there's not really much to talk about. Saints training camp starts in a couple weeks, maybe even a few days. Got to double check the dates, and it's going to be interesting to see how the Saints look this season, especially in preseason. I'm always curious to see that. And then after that, and then of course we got our next. That's all we really have to say about the Saints is training camps in a few days. We already touched on the Saints last episode, and there's nothing happening, so there's nothing to talk about. So there's this rumor circling around with the USFL, Calvin, that your old ball coach Skip Holtz was quoted and saying on a podcast, if I'm not mistaken, that the plan is to have OTAs in October in home cities, which means Birmingham would be practicing in Birmingham, and then you have the New Orleans Breakers practicing OTAs in New Orleans. That is very interesting. I don't know if that's a sign that they're really not going to do a hub again, or are they going to have hubs in the South again, and is New Orleans going to be one of them? And it's going to be interesting because I like to know where the heck are they going to practice at in October because that's high school football down here, and also college football, and no one's going to share their field. No one down here in Louisiana is going to really share their field in October because you're 1 month away from the playoffs. So you're either going to be fighting for a playoff spot or you're in the playoffs and you're trying to get that playbook and your team perfect. So especially in college football, you're just in mid-season. So I like to know where the heck are they going to practice at for OTAs?
Well, so I actually have an answer to that. So if you didn't know, I went to Jalen Ferguson's memorial yesterday. I couldn't make it to the funeral. I was, up in Missouri. I've seen some guys who were on that USFL team for Skip. They were there. We all, talked. sucks that the 2017, 2018 team, or my first year of the 2018 team where we played LSU, that some of us came back on this type of circumstance.
It happens.
Yeah, really tough scenes there. But we were talking to O'Shea. He came back, and he said that they actually practice sometimes on like community fields around like Birmingham, and places with fields, not necessarily school fields or college fields, whatever, just places that have fields. So if there's like a park or anything, community field, community sports complex, I mean, that's where they will do practice. They practice in a bunch of different places, and so he said. So
it's interesting. It really is interesting because, I mean, New Orleans has a lot of community fields. I can't really think of. There's a lot of parks out there. It really is. Now, I'm sure if they asked, I mean, there's Pan Am, which is just right off the interstate in City Park. I mean, but in October, I don't know if anyone uses that for practice. But there is a lot of community fields. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be in New Orleans. I mean, there's no community fields in Slidell. Don't really know of too many community fields on the North Shore, but on the New Orleans side of it, I know for a fact there's probably a lot to choose. So because I've heard there's a park where Michael Thomas and Chris Olave have gotten together in New Orleans and worked out. We've seen videos of MT, Chris Olave, and CJ Gardner Johnson practicing at a field in New Orleans, but no one knows where it was at. And I got told where it was at, and I cannot think of the name for the life of me right now. I know it starts with an L. Maybe one of our viewers can help me out with that name. But there's a lot to choose from in New Orleans for community fields. Now, safety-wise, I don't know. Pick and choose. I don't know. That's on you. But be interesting to see, especially if they're going to have OTAs. What intrigues me is, are they going to host tryouts for like these local guys because they didn't have tryouts for the USFL to my knowledge. It was only invite only for people that they knew that was like in the spring league and things of that nature. So be interesting to see where they do it at, or even if it's in New Orleans at all. I mean, there's a lot they could do with this, or a lot of places they could choose from.
I mean, I think as far as like hub cities go, I don't necessarily think that they're gonna. I think we spoke on it before on podcast, but I don't necessarily think that they're gonna go full like, oh, everybody's gonna play where they're supposed to play at. I've heard a couple cities being thrown out, like Detroit, Chicago, places like that. I mean, that's all fine, cool. I could see maybe like 3-4 hub cities just to give people a different look, because like what O'Shea was saying, he was like, for us, Birmingham, it was a lot easier because we had the largest home crowd every time because we were the home team and we had home field advantage literally every single game. And it's not often that you see the home field team win the championship. Like that's, I'm not going to say it's an unfair advantage. I mean, it's football. I mean, you can win anywhere, any given Sunday, Friday, Thursday, Saturday, doesn't matter. But I do think that type of versatility for playing spots would offer a lot more fairness, I guess. I don't even really say fairness, but it'll give better looks, more neutral site stuff. I would like to see a neutral site as a hub. If you're going to choose a hub, I'd say choose a neutral site. I mean, I don't necessarily agree completely with just playing in Birmingham. You could have played, somewhere in Florida, somewhere, I don't know, in Kansas, somewhere in the middle of the country, like Oklahoma, whatever. Like,
I mean, an interesting spot would be probably Mississippi, because Mississippi doesn't have a team at all. So it would be like, okay, pick and choose. They want to be a fan of the New Orleans Breakers. Okay, Louisiana's right next door. Oh, they want to be a fan of Birmingham Stallions. Alabama's right next to them. So Mississippi is in the middle of a lot of these city names. And it's kind of because I'm not going to remember all of them. And then there's only 8 teams. I mean, there's Philly, there's Tampa, there's Houston, there's New Orleans, there's Birmingham. And for the life of me, I cannot think of, there's Pittsburgh. And I cannot think of the other 2 for the life of me. I am sorry.
God, was it Phoenix? It
Oh
wasn't
no,
Phoenix.
New Jersey Generals.
Yeah.
So, and I cannot think of the last one. I apologize. I'm one of those people that keep apologizing. But Mississippi's in at the resting spot, but if they're gonna do a hub, it's gonna be in the South. I don't think they're gonna do up north because it's too darn cold up there, and I don't think a lot of players like playing in the cold. They would probably prefer to play in the heat. I know I do. I know you probably don't like playing in the cold either. I mean,
Yeah.
my preference is playing in the heat. So it's
I
gonna
mean,
be
I think
interesting.
you probably go about as far north as like Missouri. I mean, that seems pretty neutral to me. I mean,
It's an intriguing situation that the USFL has going, and it's gonna be very intriguing to see where these OTAs are being held at, especially for the breakers. And if they do it, if they do these practices, are they going to open it up to fans to come and watch? Kind of like how the Saints do it for training camp. Like they have fans come and watch, but it's going to be interesting to see.
that's the question too. Are we going to see Logan in these OTAs if they open it up to?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to speak on that. Always been told, don't ever tell other people your visions because God just made that for you. So I'm just going to say, stay tuned and find out. But if they host OTAs, I mean, I'd love to go watch. I really would. I mean, I'd love to meet some of these players. A lot of these guys played in the NFL. I mean, one of our Breakers players just got signed. He was one of the first USFL players to basically get signed. Christian Sam, the linebacker, got signed by the Dallas Cowboys. So that's great news. Great news. Really is. I'm happy for the guy. And I'm really hoping this league sticks around longer than the original did. Because the original only lasted from 83 to 85. Or, yeah, 83 to 85. Only 2 years, and it folded in 86, which, if I'm not mistaken, 86. So, with the XFL coming, I don't know if there's going to be a merger in the future because I just feel like there would be this, sorry about that, oversaturation. That would be kind of neat to see. You would have 16 teams if you combine the 2 leagues, but don't know what The Rock or Fox Sports' vision is going forward. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see, Calvin. We'll just have to wait and see.
With that.
Well, you guys, with that being said, this has been a great show. Talked about the Pelicans, which we all love. The next Summer League game is on the 11th at a scheduled 5 Central tip-off time. Then we
how
talked
that
about
goes though. Could very well be 6 or 7.
Could very well be. And then we touched on the Breakers, what's going to happen with them, where they're going to host OTAs, and just briefly on the Saints' training camp coming up. So that being said, I'm Logan Graffia. He's Calvin Rhines. This has been another great episode of The Hit. See y'all next time.